They went into the woods, but something unnatural was already waiting. 2 years ago, my friend Jeremy and I decided to hike through Great Smoky Mountains National Park. Specifically, we wanted to camp near Spencefield. Yeah, that's Spencefield. The place where Dennis Martin vanished decades ago. I know how it sounds, but we were curious. The first day was normal. The forest was beautiful, but had this heavy silence to it. It felt like the deeper we went, the quieter everything got. Even the wind seemed to die down. That night, around 3 a.m., I woke up to Jeremy sitting up, staring at the tent wall. His eyes were wide. I whispered, "What's wrong?" He whispered back, "Listen." At first I didn't hear anything. Then, faintly, there was this weird clicking sound, almost like someone popping their tongue, but wrong, too fast, too sharp, and it was moving, circling. Suddenly we heard heavy steps, not like an animal, 2 feet, slow, deliberate. Jeremy grabbed his flashlight and unzipped the tent just an inch. He froze. "There's someone out there," he whispered. "But he's huge." I had to look. I saw what he meant. About 20 yards away, something tall, like 7 or 8 feet, was walking between the trees. It looked thin, but its shoulders were wide. Its arms hung long, almost to its knees. Then it stopped. The beam of the flashlight caught its face for just a second. Pale, no hair. The eyes reflected like an animal's, and its mouth was open wider than it should have been. Like it was smiling, but the jaw was too loose. We shut the tent and sat there, holding knives, barely breathing. The footsteps circled us for another hour before they finally faded into the woods. At first light, we packed up and practically ran back to the trailhead. Later we told a ranger what we saw. He got real quiet. He said, "People hear strange things out here. Best not to camp that deep." I think about that night a lot, especially because we were near where Dennis Martin disappeared, and part of me wonders if whatever took him was still out there. This happened last summer, during my trip to Yosemite. My girlfriend and I had always wanted to hike around the Sunrise High Sierra camp area. Beautiful views, not too crowded. But I didn't know how weird that place really was until after what we saw. We made camp a little ways off the trail one evening. It was oddly quiet, not just peaceful, but empty. No birds, no wind. Even the insects seemed to stop buzzing after dark. Around 10 p.m., we heard footsteps crunching outside our tent. We froze. It sounded like someone circling us, very slowly. At first, we thought maybe it was a deer. But then, we heard humming. It was a woman's voice. Soft, almost like a lullaby. But off. She repeated the same few notes over and over, never changing. We sat there whispering back and forth. Who would be out here alone, humming in the middle of the night? The next morning, after barely sleeping, we decided to pack up early. But before we left, we both felt like something was pulling us toward the cliff's edge nearby. We climbed up to take one last look. That's when we saw her. There was a woman standing about 30 feet down the cliffside, barefoot, wearing this pale gray dress that looked old, like something from decades ago. She was staring up at us but not moving, not waving for help. We called out, but she didn't respond. Her head just tilted slowly, like she was curious. I started to climb down toward her, but my girlfriend grabbed my arm, pulling me back. She whispered, "Look at her feet." They weren't resting on the rock ledge. They were above it, like she was standing on something invisible. Then she simply glided backward into the trees below, without making a sound. We left immediately. Later, back at the lodge, we overheard a park worker mention the old case of Stacy Ann Arris, who vanished nearby back in 1981. I don't know who or what we saw, but I don't think she was supposed to be there anymore. I don't talk about this much. Honestly, I've tried to convince myself it wasn't real. But I know what I heard. 2 years ago, I did a solo backpacking trip through the Wind River Range in Wyoming. I was trying to push myself, off-trail navigation, remote areas, no other hikers. The deeper I went, the more isolated it felt, and the weirder things got. On the third night, as I set up camp, I started hearing this faint whistling. High-pitched but tuneless, like someone was just blowing air through their lips. It came from deep in the trees. At first I figured it was the wind, but the pattern didn't match. It would start and stop, move, sometimes closer, sometimes further. When the sun went down, the whistling started again, only this time it was right behind my tent. I froze. No footsteps, no voices, just that constant, gentle whistle, like someone standing inches from the fabric. After what felt like forever, it stopped, but then came the breathing. Heavy, slow breaths, right outside. I was too terrified to move. I laid there all night, clutching my knife, until dawn finally came. When I unzipped the tent, there were no footprints, nothing disturbed. The area was untouched. I packed up and hiked fast. But about 2 miles out, I saw something that made my blood run cold. On a tree about my height, someone, or something, had carved a spiral into the bark, a perfect smooth spiral deep into the wood. There were no tool marks. And next to it, hanging from a branch, was a single boot, an old, weathered hiking boot, sun-bleached and stiff. I don't know who it belonged to, but I know some people have gone missing in that area, and their gear was never found. I made it out that day. But I still hear that whistling sometimes when it's very quiet, and when I do, I make sure I'm never alone. I work volunteer search and rescue in the Pacific Northwest. I've seen a lot, but there's one call I can't forget. It was late fall, 3 years ago. A young boy, 6 years old, had vanished during a family camping trip near Mount Baker. His parents said he was playing by a tree one moment and simply gone the next. We mobilized immediately. Thick forest, cold air, time was critical. We combed the woods for hours. Then, around 2 a.m., my radio crackled. Unit 4, be advised, we have audio confirmation of the child's voice, North Ridge. I froze. We had no sound equipment deployed. Still, protocol was protocol. I headed toward the North Ridge. The forest was pitch black except for my headlamp. That's when I heard it, a child's voice.
Help. I'm over here.
I called out, I hear you. Stay where you are. The voice repeated, a little further away now.
Help me, please.
But something about it was off. The words were too rhythmic, like someone was repeating a recording. I kept moving forward, but every time I thought I was close, the voice would shift. Further, deeper into the trees. Eventually, I entered a clearing, dead silent, no movement, no voice. Then I saw something standing between 2 trees. It was tall, thin, wearing what looked like loose, old-fashioned clothing. Its face was obscured in shadow, but I could see its mouth, wide, grinning. It spoke again, in that same childlike voice.
Help me. I'm over here.
But its mouth wasn't moving with the words. I backed away slowly, never turning my back. I radioed it in, but when backup arrived, the clearing was empty, no footprints, no signs of life. The boy was found the next morning several miles away, unharmed, but confused. He said a tall man helped him find a dry place to sleep. I don't know what I followed that night, but I know it wasn't human. I've been hiking most of my life, and I thought I'd seen every strange thing the woods had to offer. That was until last fall, when I went solo camping near Crater Lake. I had picked a spot not far from where some of those missing 411 cases happened. I know that sounds dumb, but I wanted to see if the place felt different. The first night was uneventful, cold, but peaceful. But on the second night, I woke up around 2 a.m. to this horrible feeling of being watched. I stayed still, listening. At first, nothing. Then I heard what sounded like light footsteps circling my tent. Slow, deliberate. I held my breath. The steps stopped directly behind my head. Whoever it was didn't say a word. They just stood there. I whispered, "Who's there?" But there was no response. Suddenly, the footsteps started again, moving away, crunching over leaves up toward the ridge behind my campsite. I stayed awake the rest of the night. At dawn, I climbed the ridge to see if I could spot any tracks. That's when I saw him. A man, standing perfectly still on the far edge of the ridge, facing away from me. He wasn't wearing hiking gear, just jeans and a dark jacket. His head was tilted slightly, like he was listening. I called out, but he didn't react. I started to approach, but when I looked down to step over some rocks and look back up, he was gone. No movement, no sound. The ridge was steep, and there was nowhere for him to go without me hearing or seeing him. I broke camp an hour later and left. I haven't been back since, and I don't plan to.